The Story of the King's Son and the Curse of Orange and Tangerine. Hello, welcome to our story channel. Please subscribe to the channel and like the video to support us. Once upon a time, there was a king who had 40 wives in his harem, but none of them had children. Finally, he vowed that if God gives me a son, I will fill a basin full of honey and a basin full of oil, so that the poor and needy people can come and take it and eat it. Ironically, his 40th wife bore him a son. The king was very happy and provided all kinds of comforts for this boy's mother, so that he could raise this boy as he wanted. A few years passed. The boy came of age and grew up until he reached the age of 18. One day, when he was passing by the king suddenly remembered that, "We took this boy from God with a vow and a need, and we have not yet paid our vow?" Fury immediately ordered 2 large basins to be filled outside the royal palace. One filled with honey and the other filled with oil, so that whoever wants to come and take it. They did the same thing. Poor people came in groups with bowls and jars and took honey and oil. When the old woman came to take her to the Rehan pond, the king's son saw her from the porch. He laughed at the old woman's face and threw a stone at the old woman with a bow and arrow. Unfortunately, the stone hit the old woman's bowl and the bowl broke and spilled the oils. The old woman raised her head and saw that the king's son dropped the stone. He said, "What curse should I put on you, as you are the king's beloved dear? Go and get the trouble of Naranj and Taranj's daughter." The king's son came forward and said, "Which one is the orange and tangerine girl?" He said, "I don't know this anymore. Go ask those who know." The words of the old woman touched the heart of the king's son. He came and asked his mother, "Mother, which one is the girl of Naranj and Taranj?" He said, "Who told you about the orange and tangerine girl?" He said, "Some old woman." The mother said, "They say that there is a garden outside the city on top of the mountain, where the most beautiful girls in orange are there. But until now, everyone who has gone there due to them has not returned safely. I want to go and get one of those girls," said the king's son. No matter how much his mother advised to get this thought out of your head, the bigger ones left a lot and never came back. The boy used to say, "The chicken has one leg. I definitely have to go and get Naranj and Taranj's daughter." They brought the news to the king that, "Your son has such a desire." Whatever advice he gave, he did not go to the boy's expense. He said, "Then let me take some slaves and servants with you." "No, I have to go alone," said the boy. Finally, he got a walking horse from the stable and put everything he needed for the trip in a bag and started walking. 2 or 3 miles away from the city, he saw a bright old man with a white beard in the middle of the desert. The old man said to this young man, "Goodbye, young man." He said, "I want to go to the orange and bergamot garden and get 1 or 2 of the girls there." The old man said, "Many people fell into this way, but they did not reach their goal. I am afraid that you are one of them, so it is better to skip this and go back to your city and live comfortably." The boy said, "No, I will go anyway." The old man said, "Now that you don't go back on your decision, take this straight road and go until you reach a forest. In that forest there are full of predatory and biting animals. You will cut the road in the middle of them, and whatever roars and shows its teeth, pay attention. Do not. You just don't look back at what you do. In the same way, you go straight ahead until you get out of the forest. You went out of the forest and reached the house where an old female demon is sitting under a tree. He will show you the way in the well. Very well, said the boy, and walked. Before reaching the forest, he saw animals attacking him. But he didn't pay any attention and didn't even look back and went straight and went until he came out of the forest. He looked and saw a female demon sitting in front of a house under a tree until his eyes met the female demon and greeted her with 7 languages. The female demon said, "Oh man! Where are you, God? Where are you? You passed through the fairy forest safely and arrived here. It turns out that your stars are high and you mean the bottom. Tell me what you are saying. What did you come here for?" The king's son said, "I came to the orange and tangerine garden." The female demon said, "If you have reached here safely, it will be clear that you will reach the garden safely as well. But open your ears and see what I am saying. You will take this road and go to the top of this mountain. At the top of the mountain, a black horse is tied to a tree. When you reach that horse, you get off your horse and ride it. That black horse, like lightning and wind, goes a year's journey in one day to bring you to the door of orange and bergamot gardens. When you see the door of the orange and bergamot garden from afar, you hunt an animal in the desert and take it with you. There is a dragon sleeping at the door of the garden and guarding the door. Until you see the dragon, you throw the game towards it, while it is eating. You are going to the garden. In the middle of the 4 streets of the garden, the trees are all over you, and a devil is sleeping at the foot of each tree. While you are riding, you pick oranges and go back like lightning, and you don't pay attention to every sound that hits you. When you reach the tree where the black horse was tied, you dismount your horse and tie the black horse, because the demons will not reach you then." The king's son said goodbye to the female demon and went along the same path that she had shown him until he reached the top of the mountain. Immediately he dislodged the black horse from the tree and tied his own horse to its saddle and rode. Once, he galloped as if a horse had shed its feathers, and his eyes went black. An hour after he galloped, he was found at the door of the garden. He pulled the muzzle of the horse and hunted an antelope and threw it on the horse, and then he went until he reached the door of the garden. He saw a dragon sleeping there, as the female demon had said, until the dragon came to him, blew its tail and threw the goat in front of him. The dragon started eating. The king's son also came to the garden. He saw what a garden of every flower, plant and fruit tree you can imagine there is in this garden. He lost his mind. In the same way, the rider reached the middle of 4 garden streets. He saw a yes, at the foot of every tree a sleeping demon did nothing. But when he wanted to go back, as he was galloping from Bass Street to the door, he stretched out his hand and picked some oranges and bergamots. As soon as he picked the first one, a voice rang out, I chide, until the demons woke up and came to move themselves. He picked up 2 or 3 others and came out of the garden to the throne. When he came out of the garden, a voice was heard saying, Go back to the garden or you will be killed. But the boy did not pay attention to these words and came to the same tree where his horse was tied. He put the black horse in place of his own horse and walked. Ahmed passed through the door of the demon's house and entered the forest. Again he saw the same wild animals attacking him. He did not pay attention and did not look back until he came out of the forest. Arriving near Joey, he got down from the horse, put his hand on his face, put water in his mouth, and took out oranges and bergamots from his pockets. He said to himself, "Let me tear one open and see what's in it." As soon as he tore it, a 14-year-old girl came out of it. When he came to the door, he said, "Ban." Soon the king's son took out a bunch of bread from you. When he put the bread in the girl's mouth, he fell down and died. The king's son lamented and tore another one, and there was a girl who was more beautiful than the first one. He said, "Water." The king's son filled his cup with water and brought it to his mouth. The water had not yet reached his lips when he died. In the same way, he tore these oranges and bergamots, and the girls came out and asked for something, and when he gave it to them, they died. Until the last seed remained, he did not feel like tearing it and kept it. From there the king's son walked towards their own city. Outside the city, he saw the same old woman who had told him to go so that you will have the trouble of narrange and to arrange girls. The old woman saw the king's son and said, "Tell God about you so I can see if you reached the orange tree or not." The king's son said, "I arrived, but what's the use? I picked and tore some oranges with 1,000 efforts. Beautiful girls came out of them and they all died. There are only a few oranges and bergamots left, and I don't want to tear them, lest this one also die." The old woman said, "If you want it to stay and not die when you tear it and the girl comes out, if she says, 'Bread,' give her water. If she says, 'Water,' give her bread so that she stays." The old woman said this and left. The king's son got down there by the blue stream under a tree and tore the last orange. A girl came out of it, more beautiful and pure than all those girls. When the girl came to the door, she said, "Nan." The king's son poured his cup and put it in the girl's mouth. The girl drank water and grew up and became a tall girl, but naked from head to toe. The girl said, "What am I doing here? Who are you?" The boy said, "You are the daughter of Orange, and I brought you from Orange and Orange Garden to be my wife, and I am the child of the king of this province. What do you want to do now?" said the girl. The boy said, "I want to keep you here somewhere and go get you some clothes from the city and bring you into the city with a tail and a device." The girl said, "Very well, I will go to the top of this tree so that you go to the city and come back." The girl went to the top of the tree and the boy went to the city. Have the girl on top of the tree and hear about the stunts of the time. Near there was the house of a godman who had a wife and children and a black maid. While the girl was on the tree, this old black maid brought the baby to wash. When he looked at the water, the picture of the orange and bergamot girl was lying in the water, and he thought it was his own image. He said, "I was so beautiful and I didn't know it. I don't slave anymore. I must become the bride of the king and have 100 maids and slaves myself." He returned home after sitting the old ones. His wife saw the old man sitting. He said, "Then why did you sit the old ones?" He said, "I will not quarrel with this old beauty." "Whatever I have done so far is enough." His lady said, "With which beauty? Go look at yourself in the mirror." The maid went to the mirror and saw that her face was black with smallpox and her hair was frizzy. He was embarrassed, got up, took the old ones and took them away. He saw the photo of the girl again and counted his feet. He said, "Surely, this lady gave me this mirror and made it in such a way that it makes me look worse and I have to wear it." He sat down and brought the old ones again, poured them in the yard and went and got a stone and broke the mirror. His wife was surprised and said, "Are you crazy? What do you mean by these expressions? Why did you break the mirror?" He said, "I am so beautiful and beautiful, but because you are not a slave, they made the mirror in such a way that it makes me look bad." He said, "Go see yourself in the mirror of your neighbor's house." The maid went and saw in the mirror of the neighbor's house, "No, her lady is right." He came, apologized, and brought the old man and the child to Joe. He saw the girl's picture again. He thought it was himself. He said, "It turns out that the master of these two mirrors is the same, and I am very beautiful. The grave of the child's father and the child's owner. In general, I will throw the old people and the children into the water and go straight to the king's house." When the girl heard these words that she was saying aloud to herself, she laughed uncontrollably. When the sound of laughter was heard, the maid looked up and saw the girl and realized that the girl's picture had fallen into the water and she thought it was her picture. He quickly washed the clothes and cleaned the baby and went home and hid the kitchen knife under his shirt and came under the tree. First, he greeted the girl warmly and said, "Oh girl, I want to come to the top of your side tree for a minute. Put your hand down, I'll take it and come up." The straight and simple girl lowered her hair and he took it and went up, asking her, "Where are you?" The girl told the maid about her history from garlic to onion. Then he said that now the king's son has gone to bring me clothes. "Then let me chew your head," said the maid. Under the pretext of wanting to cut off the girl's head, he cut her head with a knife and threw it into the water. An orange tree grew green from the blood of the girl who spilled next to Joe. 1 or 2 days passed. The king's son came to the foot of the tree with a silk robe, a crown, a smooth bed, and a slave to take the girl. He saw the cute and beautiful black woman sitting in the girl's place, until the maid caught the boy's eyes and said, "Why did you take so long to bring a set of clothes, when it didn't take so long?" The king's son saw that he was correcting the address. "But where is the face now? Where is the first face?" He said, "You were so white, why did you become black like this?" He said, "I got sunburned and got black." He said, "What are these pimples on your face?" He said, "The crow pecked me." "Where are your long hairs?" He said, "The wind blew." The king's son has no choice, he is a fawn tied to his beard. He covered her with the clothes that she had brought, put her on the bed and brought her to the city. When he wanted to come, his eyes fell on that orange tree. He brought it with him to the city and planted it in the garden in front of his room. But out of grief, he eats himself that. After all this hard work, going to the garden and picking 7 or 8 oranges and their blossoming and this one staying, and the arrival of the girl. She is so beautiful and so ugly that one's heart breaks. Look at him. What should he do, and what will he answer to the person, work, mother and father who told him that he does not want to go? He was just glad that he might return to his original form after the girl fell asleep in the shade and fell into a state of bliss. Now hear a little about the tree that he planted at the end of the garden. The king's son and the maid saw that this tree was growing fast, and sometimes when the wind blew, it made a moaning sound. The maid understood that this tree was from that girl's blood. "I want a bed," he said to the king's son. "Tell the carpenter to come so that I can tell him what kind of bed to make for me." The king's son, who was stuck in the front door, told the carpenter to go to the maid's side. When the carpenter came, the maid said, "You will uproot this orange tree and make a bed for me." The carpenter uprooted the tree and took it to his shop. As soon as he came to put a saw in the middle and cut it into lumber, he saw a moaning sound coming from the tree. In the meantime, the same old woman was found there and cut the stem of the tree and made a spindle out of it, so that whenever the spindle in her hand breaks, she has a spare ready. The old woman put her new duke in the chest and went upstairs. 2 or 3 days passed. One day, an old woman left home early in the morning and went to the market to buy cotton. When he returned home around noon, he found his room swept, his yard sprinkled with water, and his dishes washed. Surprised. Whose work is this? Not tomorrow. So tomorrow he would have work in the market again. When he came back, he saw that they had done the housework for him again. He felt that a genie came out of the well, or a fairy fell from the sky in his house to do the work. He said to himself, "I have to find out what it is." One day he did his work. It means that he wants to go out of the house. He opened the door of the room, came to the door, put the key in the door, that is, I closed the door. But he went to the garden and hid in the trees. After an hour passed, he saw a noise in the room. Po urchin went behind the door. Once opened the door and searched the room. He saw a girl whose face says to the moon at night, "You are not at the door, I came in." He is tidying the room. The girl saw the old woman and left. The old woman came forward and said, "Mashallah, I won't see your pain." "Mashallah, who are you and what are you?" The girl told the story of herself and the king's son from beginning to end. As far as the spindle burst and came out of the spindle. The old woman was happy. He said, "You be my daughter, I will take care of your work." The old woman of the world was to his taste. Every night he would turn on his lamp and he would sit on one side and the girl on the other side, and they would talk about this and that. But on the other hand, the king's son was thinking day and night that when will this girl become the first? And he always talked to himself out of intense thought. When his parents saw him like this, they were sad too, and sent Hakim Bashi back and said, "To relieve this boy's grief and anxiety, it is necessary to make a water chain like a collar and put it around his neck, that's all. When the necklace falls on his neck, he will be relieved from grief and worry." The king asked for the minister's right hand and left hand and told them the matter and said, "Where can we find the water chain?" The right-hand minister said, "It is not everyone's job to make it. It is better to throw a jar in the street and market so that everyone who knows how to come and make it and get a good tip from the king." Tomorrow they put a notice in the neighborhoods and markets that anyone who knows how to make water chain should come, that the king needs it for his son and will give a good tip. When Naranj and Taranj's daughter heard this, she said to the old woman, "Go tell me that I know how to make it, on the condition that they give me a backyard with an original mirror." The old woman went and told the king. Ironically, the side of her son's palace was a backyard, and they gave it to the old woman with an original mirror. The old woman also took the girl to the yard with a mirror. From that side, they told the king's son that they want to make a water chain, so that you can relax from your thoughts and imagination. No one could make it except the old woman's daughter who wants to make it. The day the girl came to the yard with the mirror, the king's son also went and hid on the roof to watch how they make water chains. A very beautiful and clean girl came and sat by the pond in the middle of the king's son's yard. The girl put the mirror in front of her and started talking to it. The king's son was also listening. He saw that he was describing his going to the orange and bergamot garden. He came further and saw in the mirror a photo of the orange and bergamot garden and several naked girls, the same girls who came out when he peeled the orange and bergamot. Six Dongs paid attention to the girl's words until he reached the tree and went to the top of the tree and was killed by the handmaiden, and the handmaiden went to the king's house instead of him, and from the girl's blood orange and bergamot trees grew green and uprooted the tree from its roots and stem. The old woman and the girl came out, saw everyone. When the king's son saw these things, smoke rose from his head. He took the stairs and came to the middle of the courtyard and hugged the girl and took her to his palace. He immediately sent for his mother and told him the details, and the mother also told the details to the king. The king ordered that the city be closed and illuminated for 7 days and nights. They started a wedding. He also called that maiden and said, "Tell me, do you want a running horse or a winning sword?" He said, "The sword of victory over the life of my enemy." Running horse. They brought a mule and tied a maid's hair to its tail and set her free in the desert. They also brought the old woman, whose oil bowl was accidentally broken because of the king's son's desire, and made her a harem.